the longest title of any session up here, but we'll try not to overrun and keep you from your coffee by making it the longest session as well. But one of the more interesting ones, without any hitch from overseas audiovisual this time. So, Earth observation and data, geospatial services, whatever name you want to give to it. The market is growing very, very rapidly. We all know that. The figures are all over the place. I mean, one of the most concrete ones we can stick with is the projection from Novaspace a couple of years ago, which said that by 2033, 5,401, being very precise here, Earth observation satellites will be launched. This is a 190% increase on the previous 10 years. However, that obviously is the upstream, but that's where the data is going to be coming from. If we look at the downstream services market, the figures are all over the place. I've seen anything from 5 billion to 55 billion in terms of the market size by 2030, 2033. Probably one of the most interesting ones, though, and the one that actually drives the most value, is some stats that came from the United Nations and the, Geospatial magazine, which said that by 2030, the global impact of the adoption of geospatial technology was in the range of 16 to 30 US dollars, 16 to 30 trillion US dollars. That's up from a range of $2 to $5 trillion in 2022. So 600 to 800% growth, huge. So what is driving this? We're basically back to that age-old question. Are we looking at technology push or are we looking at market pull? Coming from the market side of the business, I always lean towards markets first. However, I think this is one instance where it's the advancements in the technology that are driving the adoption, because without the miniaturization, without the improvements in technology, geospatial would not have moved from something that delivers historical data. It tells you where something was last week and it can compare with where it is now, to what it is now, which is predictive. So what I'd like to start by opening is asking the panel, each of them, to talk about the different technology drivers from their perspective, what is driving your markets. Then we'll talk about what those markets are. So whoever would like to jump in first,
Ladies first, you want to?
Sure, thank you. So first of all, my name is Alix Rousselière. I'm with Novaspace in our SATCOM and Ground Center of Expertise.
Thank you for introducing yourself. I should have said that. Introduce yourself before we start. My apologies.
To answer your question, Elisabeth, I think we see a lot of, headlines on optical and SAR, but when we look at market figures, I think a lot of the value is still within, more multispectral for certain, civil applications. A lot of complex medium-ocean systems, for example, are really still centralizing a lot of the value in the EO market. So I think globally, no single technology can answer every need. That's why it's increasingly important to have this orchestration of multiple sensors. So we've seen this come into, I'd say, 3 different types of layers. The first one is really the physical basic layer. Multi-mission or multi-sensor ground stations, like the likes of KSAT or SSC, or DLR, a number of different players who are already doing this on a pretty day-to-day basis. Then we have a second, more data level kind of layer that is being more developed by like defense players or environmental monitoring type of organizations. And then I'd say we'd have a third, more orchestration-based layer. So the next frontier for me is not enabling this orchestration of sensors. It's more about automating and accelerating, enabling scale, basically.
And
Yeah,
Please
thanks.
please
I'm
introduce
Aurélien
yourself.
Fougerard, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of New Space Group. And I concur with what Alix just said. What we see at our clients is that really optical and SAR, and especially the sub-meter resolution, is really the main driver of the demand right now. But you also have some other layers, like, for example, hyperspectral or LIDAR or even RF, that are really starting to take off. If I take hyperspectral, for example, it is slowly moving from the academic and research and development phase to the commercial phase. And we really see a demand growing with players like Pixel, for example, coming into the game. And our clients want those kind of data. If I talk about RF now, this is also something that is driving the demand a lot. Our customers want to have border control and maritime awareness, and RF is really something that is crucial for them. But for me, if we have a lot of technologies like that, I agree with what Alix was just said, right? This is the fusion of all this data and all this intelligence signal that are really the corner of the strategy that we're making, right? Our client wants to have various aspects, various data points, and they can drive the analytics around those data points, right? That's really what is crucial here, and that's what we do with our platform, like Up42, for example, aggregating all those type of demand, flowing down to our customers.
Nicolaus.
Yeah, so Nicolaus Hanowski from the European Space Agency. I'm responsible for the mission management, the operations, the ground segments, data management of all Earth observation missions at the European Space Agency, Copernicus Sentinels, Earth Explorers, and also the commercial third-party mission portfolio that we are managing in order to complement these data sets with commercial, very high-resolution data. I concur. Again, I think key technologies in terms of the instrumentation, in terms of the data types, have been mentioned. I would just like to recall 3 game changers that we have recently seen and that are still affecting. I think one of the big things that has changed the picture for European global industry is the free and open data policy of Copernicus, that we have global coverage for all kinds of data sets up to 10-meter resolution, which serves as the background for many applications to be focused and provided as services. The second big revolution that I saw was really the logic where we are moving away from a mapping and imaging-minded perception of Earth observation. And I think the best manifestation of this is that in the next generation of the Copernicus system, we are expanding into infrared, hyperspectral, L-band radar. So there's hardly anything that is not being measured by Earth observation systems. I can tell you that even our science missions, from gravity missions, ionospheric missions to wind speed measurements, have a strong commercial and operational component. We have just launched as the last Earth Explorer mission the biomass mission to determine biomass as a scientific endeavor, but it turns out that companies are already prepared to commercialize these data. And then number 3, from my perspective, and you have hinted at that, is that we are looking how we can harness cloud and high-performance processing in order to manage the data sets, but even more to come to what we call predictive Earth observation by applying artificial intelligence and the modeling capabilities that we have available, which is traditionally derived from the climate and meteorology community, but is, I think, broadening now way beyond these spheres. And we see a lot of applications being developed on the understanding that we have the capacity to process huge amounts of data.
When will the next generation of Copernicus be?
We were just preparing now for the CO2 mission as the next part of what we call the expansion of Copernicus. So we're talking about the 27 time frame, 26, 27. So it's around the corner. And of course, this goes hand in hand with also what is called the Copernicus contributing missions, for example, where we are acquiring on behalf of the European Union large amounts of commercial data that is being injected for Copernicus services, for commercial applications. And we have our own third-party mission program in which we are acquiring commercial data for scientific applications. So it's more an ecosystem, and like just mentioned, it's covering everything from radio frequency to all types of new technologies and measurements.
Aurélien, you mentioned that hyperspectral is starting to come into use.
Yep.
If we look at the more traditional technologies, for want of a better word, optical, thermal, SAR, do any one of those stand out, or is it totally a meshing of all of them?
I think optical and SAR, really this is the bulk of the image, and especially the sub-meter resolution. This is really what we see, right? That's the basic of the offer. If you don't have that, then you cannot succeed. Then the others are more, I would say, this is the backbone, and then you add up on top some technologies just because you need them to, I would say, provide the answer to your customer. Because there is a trend that now customers are not buying data anymore. They're buying insights. They want answers. So this is on firms like NSG to determine what is the best technology to use, and really SAR and optical are the backbone, and then hyperspectral, LiDAR, for example, or RF are used on top as a complement most of the time, except if the client has a super precise question that you need only one building block to answer. But that's it.
Okay. So you started to move us on. You're talking about people not wanting just the data. You need to go move into the predictive stack, give them more information. ML, AI has got to come into that. You cannot analyze that amount of data without it.
Yeah. I mean, that's, as mentioned, I mean, that's at NSG, what we're trying to do is reduce the gap between tasking of a satellite and giving the answer to our customer. Again, because the customer wants answer, not to tasking or whatever. For us, tasking a satellite, then downloading the imagery, and then processing, this is all the process we need to do. If you don't do it via AI now, you cannot really answer. And now the battle, because everybody has access to the data, almost, especially with platform like Up42, really the core of the battle now is how do I perform this from in the satellite and then the ground station, pre-process, post-process of the image. If you manage to master all those processes, then that's fine, because the more resolution you have, the more possibilities you have for your client, but the more complex the task is to analyze. And then AI and machine learning is here to do that. That's a must-have now.
Would you concur?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're talking about the processing capacity. I think there are two domains that can be conceptually separated a little bit. I would say a lot of the processing capabilities really go into improved analytics. So data analytics, large area, large time frame analytics. And the other part is really on training specific AI models. We need capacity to train the AI models that we need for specific applications and services. And let's not forget that one of the key assets that we have by having these infrastructures is that the most value, or the only value can be generated out of data sets that are safe in terms of data content, are safe in terms of data provision, that they are available over long periods, and are characterized qualitatively and in all respects complete, so that nothing bad happens in terms of the information that we are extracting.
Do you want to add anything about AI and ML, or
I mean,
you're with it?
I concur with what Nicolaus just said. I think the time to decision is crucial, and that's what you're enabling your customers in the end. It's what Aurélien said as well. You're not just selling pixels anymore. You're really enabling decisions. So that's the focus.
Yeah. So moving on to the customer side of things, let's talk about the different customer segments. and which ones are growing fastest and which ones are static. Nicolaus, Aurélien, who would like to start?
Maybe I start with the big picture.
Okay, sure.
Again, I'm a bit biased towards Copernicus and the big programs, but fully realizing that the ultimate purpose, of course, is the enablement of the commercial sector. All the programs that we run are not intended as competition for the commercial sector, but as a stimulant to enable new, broader, diverse applications and to utilize the market. Just to give you a few figures, so the data, our data portal for Copernicus, we have 1 million registered users on Copernicus Data Access. And with a free and open data policy, that means this is only the tip of the iceberg, because we have different layers of redistribution by different entities. So it just gives a bit of a feeling about the range of the community, and it's all types of users. The other component is really the data volume. On that first layer of data dissemination, we are talking about almost 0.5 petabyte per day that goes out. And again, I mentioned the revolutions a few moments ago. In the past, when we had scientific missions, Earth observation 10 years ago was completely different. And I think it wasn't so different also on the commercial side. Every 10th data product was downloaded, was utilized. Only 10% of the actual data that was generated from the missions was utilized. Now it's the reverse. On average, every data product generated by these missions is used 10 times. And that's a complete reversal, which is, I think, setting a little bit the stage on who is actually able to utilize the data, and it's showing how broader the user base has become.
So is additional users that are driving that increase?
I would definitely, because again, 10 years ago, the Earth observation was a very scientific endeavor still. Most of the missions, at least in the big programs, were dedicated to specific scientific communities with PI teams, with limited, with a limiting data policy as well. And again, the data policy has changed that, and of course, the understanding that Earth observation data can become a commodity that finds its way in many new applications and services. I think that's the reality that we're seeing and that the companies are representing here.
All commercial, or is military getting government and military also?
I think it's the key ambition. I mean, Copernicus was devised as a joint endeavor of the European Union and European space agencies. Mm-hmm. Both entities have put a lot of budget into these endeavors. Let's not forget that the Director General in the European Union was DG GROW. It was not for scientific purposes. It was economic, commercial growth that was the ultimate objective. And that still holds. The key ambition is to stimulate the commercial sector.
Okay, thank you. Aurélien.
Yeah, if I try to structure what are the big segments that we see right now at NSG, I would say first, it's government and defense, for sure. Mm-hmm. Second is something around smart cities and infrastructure. Then you have natural resources, environment, and kind of a specificity that we have at NSG is the Vision 2030 with all the giga projects, right, that are driving demand. If I start by defense and intelligence, you have two use cases like ISR and maritime awareness that are driving really the budget growth, especially in the global south, where a lot of country needs sovereign data. That's the first thing. In smart cities and infrastructure, we're slowly moving from proof of concept or pilots for digital twins, really to now operational platforms that are used for transportation, for utilities management. This is really shifting at the moment, and Earth observation is pivotal in this moment. Then all related, of course, to natural resources and environment, like carbon market, biodiversity, methane, are really driving the demand, and also some new customers like financial institutions, like insurance, for example, who needs to have an eye on what's happening on Earth to kind of price their insurance premium, for example. This is becoming really a critical capability for them. And as I've mentioned, also a big demand driver for us in Saudi Arabia is all the Jigger project like NEOM, the Red Sea project or Qiddiya that demand a lot of monitoring of the construction, but also how they see expanding the project, right? This is really driving a lot of them. So that would be the four main items that we see at NSG.
Sovereignty is key in the Middle East, but you also work in Europe, don't you?
Yeah, of course.
So does sovereignty come into play there or not?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there has been a topic that has been discussed a lot during those 2 days, and a lot a few weeks ago in Paris. But sovereignty is now, in everything we do, there is a sovereign component almost. If this is data processing, for example, you need to have the pixel path from the satellite to the customer, to the end customer, needs to be secured and sovereign. So, and here a ground station plays a huge role, right? We need to have ground station that enables to have both access for sovereign data, but also access to commercial data and more open ones. So that drives a bit the design of the system that we need to do. And that's exactly what we're doing with, for example, our platform in Hub 42. We are able to manage the sovereign path through a dedicated path, really it's secured, but we also want to address commercial entities in Europe, in the US, whenever we got it. So we have this dual approach that needs to be fully ready. Otherwise, for government and institutions, you will struggle to open the market.
So you mentioned US, you're going to be expanding there as well?
Not for the moment, but that will be discussed, for sure.
You brought it up, not me.
Yeah.
So looking at all of this and these significant improvements, where do you see it going in the future? What does the future look like? Let's say look 5 years ahead. Where do you think we're going to be with all of this?
And for our customers, for us?
What's the market's going to be like?
So,
where's all this growth coming from in the next 5 years?
I mean, as you were saying, the market is growing like hell, right? Yeah. At the moment. So the market is going towards less and less latency. So there will be a competition around latency. This is really the core of the business, because now our customers don't want to have the insight in hours or days. They kind of want it to have it seconds or hours, right, or minutes. So this is really driving the show. For border security, for example, like Frontex, they almost want real-time analysis so they can monitor migrants flows or border controls, etc. So I think the market is going to go towards more and more almost real life and Earth observation, and that's going to drive a lot the offers that people. So that would be the main, and that will drive a lot of challenge going forward down the value chain for the ground station, but also for the processing as we mentioned.
And I would say full integration of different measurement types, of different data types. Again, we will see much more potential on what I would call local, small-scale, predictive scenarios, decision-making possibilities, abilities. We call these what-if scenarios. And ultimately, I mean, we should not forget the main customer is still the institutional sector. And I would expect us working together that we see a stronger shift from the institutional sector to the private sector as the end customer.
Okay. You're in the predictive business. Over to you.
Well, as a consulting firm doing market intelligence work, for sure, we follow a lot of these developments with great attention. Obviously, there's so much going on, Star Shield program in the US and others. But to answer your question on data needs, I think, I see what Nicolaus and Aurélien said in our work at Novaspace. Customers are increasingly asking for this on-demand, analysis-ready information that they want increasingly, so with low latency, that they want with standardized APIs, and that they want seamlessly integrated into their workflows. Again, the idea being really to enable quicker decision making. I think there's a really strong demand on the part of governments for increasingly higher resolutions, and this is really driving a lot of the growth. We have a market intelligence report that just came out on Earth observation market more specifically, and in this report typically we look at the different satellites that are going to be launched over the next decade for the Earth observation domain. We look at the types of players launching these satellites and the market value that they generate with each specific sensor, for example. And typically defense in the market projections from our EO report is estimated to account for over half of the market value over the next decade. So it's pretty significant growth on the defense side still. And then apart from the defense, civil government is still another huge actor. It's about a third, according to this new report, of the value expected in EO within the next decade. So pretty significant institutional demand, I think, driving much of the sector.
If you combine government and defence, are we looking at about 50% of the market?
We're looking at about a bit more, about 80%.
About 80%. Okay, that has changed then, because the last report was 50.
We update continuously.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely.
And just adding on what you said, workflow integration, that's also becoming the critical topic right now, because customers want to have everything in the same place that they can seamlessly integrate to their own systems, right? And that's becoming something critical.
So are you also providing, I think the expression you used was analysis ready, or are you providing the analysis, in other words, the post-analysis?
Well, I'm not sure.
Analysis ready is providing them the data to drop into their system that they can analyze, or are you doing some of the analysis for them?
Yeah, it depends, but most of the time they want to have the analysis ready that is shared with their systems on a super seamless basis. You have other firms that want to have, because they have their own capabilities, they want to have an access on their workflow, but just for the data, or let's say level 1 or level 2 of the process of the data, the images, really depends. But till the point that they want to have the data, they want seamless integration. And we can do everything they need, from the full answer or some partial answer that they're going to put together to have their own answers.
Maybe just a word of caution from my side. I mean, we have been dealing with the notion of analysis-ready data for a long time. I think it's still a notion that needs to be taken with caution and in the right context, because again, from a service perspective, even raw data can constitute analysis-ready data. Many examples for that. And in some cases, people are not even interested in data. They want simply information. In some cases, they don't even want information. They want the higher level knowledge to be derived from these systems. So I'm always a bit cautious when we try to say, oh, the solution is analysis-ready data or something like this. It really depends on the context. We need to keep an open mind and need to listen to the end users, what they actually prefer for their applications.
Do you want to break that down a bit in terms of which types of end user prefer which type of data?
It depends. I mean, again, on the extreme ends, if you have a scientific end user, which is not probably the key community that we're talking about here, but these are the ones who are very intent to work with raw data. They want to understand every bit of the processing step in order to really not miss any relevant information in the process. And again, the big programs that we are running now with Earth observation data, such as Destination Earth of the European Union, these are systems that are generating operational information services for decision making. So the people that are actually the end users of these systems don't even know what kind of data they are looking at in the end. They need reliable information, and they need to trust that these systems and services are built with the integrity that they need in order to make these decisions. But they are operating. We have an operational service on Destination Earth. It's interesting that the European Union has different parts already now embarking on these activities. This is part of the DG Connect initiative, and Earth observation data as well as meteorological data, climate data, it finds its natural way into these operational systems already, and that's showing how operational these things are becoming.
Okay, thank you. Aurélien, a few years ago, Saudi Arabia was marked, I think, 32nd in the world in terms of providing geospatial data.
Yeah.
Now it's moved up, I think, in the space of 3 years to 9.
Exactly. We're
You
very proud of it.
Yes, and that essentially means NSG, that wasn't in existence or is only just becoming in existence, is driving this growth.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about not only how you did that, but also about how your size and importance is driving the market worldwide? In other words, innovations that you're doing that are being picked up.
Yeah, I mean, geospatials has been put as something critical in the kingdom, right? That's why there are a lot of efforts. Of course, first is NSG, but also the whole geospatial strategy that we have put together. So just as a reminder, we've acquired former TACNIA ETS that is providing project and geospatials project for the government entities. And on top of that, we have added a layer through the Up42 platform that we have duplicated into a KSA platform, a KSA marketplace. So now we have a whole ecosystem driving the Earth observation through Saudi Arabia's needs, right? Because this has been put as a priority for space. And the CST, the regulator, is doing a tremendous job in structuring the ecosystem. So this is really a priority for the kingdom, space, but also Earth observation, and this is how we've built the ecosystem. And it's not over because there is a competition that is driving a lot of efforts to bring startups in the kingdom. Yeah. So that's because there, as I mentioned, there is a lot of demand with giga project going on. So this is, and now Saudi Arabia, the ambition of Saudi Arabia is to be recognized as a global scale player in Earth observation. That's why you see this progress from the 32nd to the 9th place. Right? That's really what is driving the show. And obviously, with our strategy, NSG is really is the cornerstone of this strategy with the help of the CST.
Okay. I've just been given the time signal, so I think it's time to open up to the floor for any more questions. If not, I have some here. Yeah, one over there.
Hi, Lawrence Russell, Data Center Dynamics. So at World Satellite Business Week in September, there was a rather lively debate, I think on the 4th day, about Earth observation groups potentially being somewhat reliant on the defense market, the intelligence market, because they had the deepest pockets, because they were so interested in these kinds of technologies. They were wondering if it was sort of at the behest of those markets that the technology sort of existed and grew and evolved. Do you see that, and do you think that that naturally has any sort of implications for how the technology is going to develop?
You want to take it?
Well, you're a provider, aren't you?
I didn't attend the 4th day, unfortunately. I stopped at the 3rd. But, I mean, for sure, the defense industry, I mean, if you look at it, even historically, has driven innovation in all kinds of fields, right, from GPS to satellite communications. So I think it will continue in the short term driving the type of sensors. So I think linked to that, the demand for ELINT, for example, that's heavily influenced by governmental demands. And then multispectral still, I think, will continue to be a big governmental demand.
Really?
Yeah, I fully aligned. What we see is that you can, but that's if you have a strong governmental demand, then it means that you can have kind of a backbone to support your innovation, right? If you try to invest in innovation only for commercial reasons, then it's going to become much more difficult. So that's why those players that you mentioned are really focusing first on defense and institutions. That is driving a lot of demand. We said 80%, something like this. So if you invest on only 20% of the market, then that's going to be an issue to have your business case. So I'm an industrial. I will not invest only on the back of the commercial world, right? I need a bit of institution, a bit of governments, of defense to fuel the business case, right? That is really driving the demand. That I know there was a lot of debate, but still that's what's happening, and that's why those firms are really targeting those markets, and that's for sure.
And on our side, the game-changing event is evident in the fact that for the first time we are seeking explicit funding for these programs, particularly Earth observation resilience system programs from the defense ministries. Usually ESA budgets are coming from other ministries of the member states, but the defense ministries are now part of our portfolio, if I may say so.
Yeah.
Another question back there.
Thank you. Michael Lukin from TTP. The live, geospatial live is mentioned in the title, and it was briefly mentioned in the discussion. So, especially for the future Earth observation delivery of the content. So how do you see that to be organized technically? And would ESA, next generation Earth observation satellites, will have short latency for data that those images delivered? As far as I know, the US SDA, Space Development Agency, constellation has quite strict latency requirements, and they have their own way of delivery of those images. So how do you see that outside of that constellation?
The question is on the latency of the data. Is that the key question, or?
Can you deliver in real time?
Okay. So I think in the Copernicus context, this is not the key driver at the moment. It's the key driver for another program that we're working on, which is called ERS, European Resilience from Space. And that's a system that is basically driven by a logic of reducing delivery times to 30 minutes from sensing. That's specifically for security defense purposes. This whole program proposal is embedded in an ambition to bridge towards the European Union Earth Observation Governmental Service, which is in preparation. And of course, its ambition is also to be linked with the national endeavors that we see in many member states, and to pool and share some of the capabilities and assets that we have on the national level, which will bring, hopefully, that's the ambition, the latencies to less than 30 minutes. That's a bit the holy grail, is to get to 15 minutes for any type of information that is required.
I think that does not apply in all markets. I mean, you were talking about like the border security, where it was wanted pretty much instantaneously.
Yeah, and that's the issue, and that's a real issue that we're having, because there are several components to this real-time thing. Mm-hmm. There's the revisit rate of the satellite first, which is driving a lot, right? And when you task the satellite from the moment you get the image or the data, through the process that you can deliver your message or your report to your customer. This is strange, because those 30 minutes that you're mentioning, and that's also what we're trying to achieve, right? At the moment we get the data, then 30 minutes later, then the decision maker can have this. But then it needs to have an optimization all across the process, from downlink to processing of the image, then preparation, like data ready, and then during really the analysis layer. So this is where everything is key. So there is no magical solution, I would say, but it's a step by step. You need to optimize everything on the whole value chain, and that's That's exactly what we're trying to do. Like we're at NSG, for example, you might have seen we've launched a new product called Neo Maps. This is something that is beginning, right? We're going to launch a few products to enable this, having super fast data provision and insight provision for our customers. But this is the battle that we are doing at the moment.
And there's also the constraint of weather independence, all day, nighttime. So it's also a technological question.
Yeah.
What sensors you're actually utilizing.
Yeah, of course, the satellite. Yeah, sure.
But I think in the military market in particular, 30 minutes is not what they're asking for, and it's not what they're getting.
It depends, huh?
Yeah. And I can't speak for them, but I can speak about what I've read, and it's definitely less than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you want to make any comment on that, you won't in that session either, will you? So,
I don't have anything to add to
Okay.
what Nicolaus and Aurélien said.